So I've combined two groups. I've got the dating and relationship meetups that I just started and took over for one group in New York, and then I created another one here for Los Angeles. And then I'm also part of the Nonpartisan Red Pill Men's Group, and that's a group where we discuss dating, sexuality, women, relationships, and politics without all the right-wing crap. Welcome to the Nonpartisan Red Pill Men's Group. We meet every month, and you can register for that meeting just like you did here. And that's at tinyurl.com/redpillmen. And today we're talking about the soulmate myth.
Right. And I think that's a part of the red pill. It's some of these are hard truths in some cases, and they sound kind of harsh, but I can't prove it right here and now, but I think most of these notions are true, and that there is this notion that, in the last 6 months, I was having a conversation with a woman, and she managed to get across the idea of, if you want a relationship with me, you have to pay for my roof repair and a house back east. And I just thought that's incredibly crass, incredibly callous, and just that was harsh. And so now, not everybody is that way. Thank goodness, not all women are that way. But the fact that even 10 or 20% of them might be this way is kind of shocking, So there are some hard truths between the genders, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think so. I think sometimes also there's negativity towards men that women have. If we stay focused on the soulmate myth there, we can might not get into trouble.
Yeah.
Might not get into trouble. But thinking the idea that men want to have sex with multiple women and they'll have sex with anybody, and that they're just dogs and so forth. But hey, ladies, men are made to have sex. Men are made to make love to you. We're physically built to do that. So what the hell are you complaining about?
Yeah, I could see where they would want men to be nice towards them and behave in a civilized way. And if they click enough, then physical intimacy occurs. But also with something you mentioned earlier that I wanted to second is, yet men should have standards, and other than just physical things,
Right.
They should expect to be treated reasonably and with some politeness and that sort of thing. But, that varies from man to man,
And even what you said, I'm go personal again. I'm dating a woman I've been with for a long time, right? And she's not really very aware, to tell you the truth. But the idea that I don't make as much money as her and I don't have as much as her, and how she doesn't want to, in other words, and how her life, I don't exist in parts of her life. Her family doesn't know me, even though we've been together for 20 something odd years, and all my family knows, and the idea that she will criticize me and ridicule me, or what it's called, henpeck or whatever, because I don't meet those standards, and the idea that she's entitled to somebody who meets those standards, who is rich, who makes more money than her, and she feels entitled to that, and then the idea of hypergamy, where if a rich guy comes along, of course she's going to jump on that if that guy comes along. So there's the idea that they're entitled to that guy, and they're entitled to monkey branch over to the guy if he comes along, because they're women and their role is to maximize natural selection, to optimize natural selection. So of course, it doesn't matter whether it probably doesn't matter whether you're married, but certainly if you're not married, if a guy comes along who's better, that's just the way it is.
Yeah.
That's basically what the soulmate myth is about. And I would like to help some people, with dating issues or answer any questions about that. Because it seems like so many people have said, oh, that's what my woman said to me last night. You're my soulmate. And I was thinking, I'm just doing a class tomorrow. I'm doing this thing on the myth of the soulmate. I was thinking, but
Yeah.
I'm thinking I'm your soulmate, but I'm invisible.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll just go spike here. My concern about this is that you guys seem to be missing quite a bit of the big picture. The way that people are is presented in church, in school, in normal society, where this masculine, feminine gender role thing is supposed to be. I believe personally the 70s came along and you were talking about the 50s where that shit was really ingrained. The 70s screwed the whole thing up because it brought women out of the house. You had women in the house with their laundry, irons, and refrigerators, no black ice coming up there. You had a good gas furnace. You didn't have to see the coal man. So they had a lot of time. By the time the 60s were here and, the unrest, racially, civilly, where kids wanted to be not their damn toys for of their parents. They wanted to be individuals. They didn't all want to be the same guy with the white shirt, the penny loafers, the whole thing. 70s put them out there together. They were separate. I was at a school where guys were on one side, girls on the other side in the stairs, But this stuff kind of changed in the 70s with the flower power and the, hippies and everybody can see, it was segregated. But by then you had mixed groups. That was a taboo. It would no longer became war. All these kinds of people were doing things that you shouldn't do. So now the roles are being supported, keeping guys and girls in their place by making criminals go to jail. And when the criminals in jail, we'll give you some welfare for your money, for your, to keep your interest. What all this has done, it has messed up everything. And now nobody knows what to do because it's not strict anymore. And the rules have been bent, stomped on, changed. It's interesting that you guys are saying this.
But one thing I'll just add in that the sexual revolution has, what it did is sort of led to a type of polygamy, that the sexual revolution freed women to go and have relations with multiple men. And so, of course, they choose the hottest, best looking ones. And so they end up sharing those men. And then those men inevitably don't start a relationship with them. And then that man represents all men to them when most men are invisible to women. And so that's the sexual revolution has led to 30% of men being sexless. 30% young men being sexless. They're not having any relations. They don't have a woman. They don't have that. That's what the sexual revolution, whereas it's led to
in Japan. Those guys in Japan, I think, is probably close to 70%. You see that, like I said, the roles aren't fixed anymore. They let women go to work. These guys don't know what the hell to do. It used to be that's the way it is. You're the guy, you run things, da 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 da. It's over, and guys don't know exactly where they fit because it's been that way. It's dang near genetic, man.
Well, when you say genetic, and this is what evolutionary psychologists say, is that we have this sexual strategies that evolve over because of women's needs and men's needs as well. And also, women bear children, men get women pregnant. So women, we need a woman to bear children. We don't need each man to impregnate women. One man can impregnate multiple women. So there's not a need for this other 30% of men out there who may not meet the standards that most women are looking for. And we talk about these increasing standards. They're not really increasing standards. Women are killing it, and men are being slaughtered.
Yeah.
Process.
Like I said, they've been trained out of the deal for the last 30 or 40 years. Like, the white shirt and tie business is gone. You don't even see a white shirt and tie at a funeral anymore. It's nuts.
Yeah. I didn't understand everything you said there, but
The white shirt and tie, the whole
white shirt
idea
and
of,
tie.
the formalism is gone. It's casual. It's not just on Friday. And that was a hell of a thing to even have a casual Friday in the 80s. It's people are trying to relearn their role, I think. And there are some people who were used to what it was, who are in the power positions. They don't want to lose power, and they're holding on and fighting like they're in a corner, and it's different. It used to be not as competitive for everybody. Now it is competitive for everybody. You exclude people. You've got people who get cracked the glass filling. It's down to their damn waist. They're doing it, man.
So
Mr. Presido?
hi, Kathy. Is it Kathy or Lisa?
Kathy.
Oh, Kathy, go ahead. Speak. If you have a camera, that would be great. If we can see you. If not, that's okay.
I just wanted to know, what did you mean when you said that men are invisible? What did you mean by that?
Well, the statistics are that most men are pretty much invisible to women. I mean, a lot of guys that don't meet women's standards for attractiveness or status are invisible to them. They don't really see those men that they really don't want anything to do with. And that's a lot of men. So does that make sense, Kathy?
Yes, it does. And it affects them in, like you were saying, in negative ways.
Yeah, I mean, I have to acknowledge that men can do a lot to make themselves more attractive to women, to make themselves more visible to women. But yeah, I mean, just think about it. Human connection and intimacy is a human need. It's not something that some men deserve and other men don't. These men need affection, need that affection, and need that intimacy. Really need a relationship with a woman, and yet, they're a lot of them are just like young men. This is a good example because there's a lot of old, scraggly guys out there, who probably no woman wants to touch, but young men, between the ages of 18 and 30, have to focus on their careers. The only thing they can do is focus on their careers and wait until they hit 30. Unless you're a 6-foot stud, then you've got a bunch of married and older women who are willing to be with you and they go to the strip club to be with those young guys. But when or the bachelorette party, but basically when they're alone, and these are good-looking young men, they just don't have anything, and they can't really take you out on a date. They can't spend $200 to $300 on a date. It's a high school date. They take you to the movies, maybe they take you to dinner, but they're not rich, they're not provider material, and they may not be really good looking in the sense of being average, average men. And so they're alone, they're frustrated, they're turning to authoritarianism and right-wing extremism because they're being slaughtered in that sense. They have these needs and they can't get them satisfied. So they just have to focus on the career and wait until they're 30 to really start having any type of action for a lot of these men. Did I go off? Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, well, here's something that I've found. And I guess as you were commenting, Richard, about your relationship with your girlfriend, it seems like there is, there's a lot more of whether it's like, kind of that like power thing or victim bully, whatever you want to call it, that it's like sometimes it's the man who's the bully, and sometimes it's the woman who's the bully, and then sometimes it seems like it's like this power play or something. I don't understand it, but what I've found is, so I was married for like 16 years, and not right away, but like the last few years he became emotionally and verbally abusive. And it's just like, what the hell? And I mean, I tried, we tried to work on the marriage, but in the end, he didn't stop doing that. So I divorced him. And then he married someone, and then he kind of took the role of victim. And then now his wife even physically and verbally and emotionally abuses him. So it's like, I've sometimes have seen that pattern, and it's interesting. But then like with myself, I mean, I want, and maybe this is why I never get dates. I don't know, or something I put out there, but it's like, I will not settle for anything less than equality on both ends. It's not like, I need to, put down my spouse or boyfriend, whatever, because of whatever reason, nor can he. And it seems like, especially in today's world, it's like there's always this contest or this power, and it's just, it's really frustrating. So, and I've just heard so many people that have that, some type of thing where it's like that, kind of like that power play where, so that's
Yeah, Lisa, that's actually the very next thing that Rollo Tomassi talks about in his book. And that's what we'll be talking about next week, is power in relationships. So I think it is very connected to this, because he connects it to the soulmate myth. It's the very next section of the book. So, and actually what he says is about power. The main thing he says is that the person who needs the other person least is the one with the most power. And but I am not prepared to talk about that section of the book.
right.
Yeah. And I think the thing that people do, I mean, we grow up with abuse. That's one reason why I'm in the relationship, because of growing up with people with personality issues. But anyway, I forgot what else I was going to add to that, what you said, Lisa. Can you tell me once again summarize what you just said so I can remember it?
Oh, just that quite often, whether it used to be more often that like the male would sometimes be, the bully, we'll say, and the wife was the victim or the person bullied. And then but now it's like, as things have changed, is quite often both. That it's like sometimes it's the man who's the bully, and sometimes it's the woman who's the bully. But there's a tendency for people in relationships to even if it doesn't start out that way, it's like eventually there tends to be this power play where one person thinks that they need to kind of like put the other person down, or kind of bring them down in some way, shape, or form.
That some of that has to do with personality issues, and their particularly narcissism.
Yes.
So and the thing is, here's one thing to think about when you talk about a commitment to equality, because I had a commitment to equality because when I had a mystical conversion experience in a feminist studies class in college, and minored in women's studies. It's called the Study of Women and Men in Society at the University of Southern California. And then, and I did some writing and stuff like that, but I would say, hey, we're equal, pay your way. I mean, I was a college student, you know, I didn't have a lot of money, you know, but at the same time, I really felt, why should I have to pay for a date? Why am I paying for a date? You know, why am I the one paying? You know, what, doesn't this woman want to be with me? You know, we're supposed to be equal here, you know, and what I didn't understand at the time was that, well, it's part of the seduction process. That's one way of saying it, for a man to pay for the date. There's traditional things, but women really, they always want their cake and to eat it too. You know, they want equality on one hand, but then they want a traditional relationship on another. And the traditional relationships are based on inequality. So, so the idea that, you know, we demanding equality, I would love if a woman demanded equality and treated me equally, but we have a tendency to be competitive, right, in a sense, in that the woman's trying
Yeah,
to
exactly.
trying to lock
Yeah.
down the man, right, and the man's trying to get the best woman he can, you know, best looking woman, I guess, I don't know, but yeah. So and there was one more thing I was going to say about that, but I forget what that was. Yeah.
Well, if I could just ask Lisa, if you could elaborate on what is your idea of equality, and if you could include like who pays for dates and stuff like that, I'd be curious to hear the woman's perspective on that.
Okay. I mean, I guess for paying for dates, I mean, it maybe depends. I mean, if like if one person makes a lot more money, then they should maybe pay for, more of the dates, not all of them. But if they make the same amount, then, they should, take turns paying. And, but I mean, I guess for equality, what I meant more about was just the way that you treat each other. It's like, thinking that, okay, I'm better than my spouse because I make more money, or because I'm cuter, or because I'm whatever, and then just berating the, significant other, and berating them and bringing them down, and then making them feel terrible is that's, or maybe just like bickering at them constantly about like just every little thing. I mean, that's the as opposed to trying to be a part of the solution. And, I think it might partly come from, all of this from, misinterpretation of like religion and Christianity, because it's like there's, some people, Christians who believe that's like the man is always in charge and because of, things that it says in the Bible. But it's like my interpretation of that is, it's like we're all God's children, so therefore he doesn't treat his children differently. Why should we treat each other differently? But in relationships. But I think a lot of that kind of does come from Christianity.
Yeah,
I would address and say, sometimes we want to look at things like Christianity and make them the boogeyman here. But the truth, one of the truth is that sort of inequality is built into hypergamy. It's built into females' nature, not nature saying their evolutionary evolved nature. Now, I'm going to say that women can and should control their own behavior, and that they're not bound by their evolutionary psychology, because we men are not bound, because we men have a lot of things from our desires and wants from our Neanderthal sexual sort of evolution, but we don't act on all of them, thank God. And at this point in time, women need to not act on some of these things, like demanding that a man make more money than you. I mean, that's a minimum standard for a lot of women. You know, but hey, where's the equality? You're not making room for equality. You're going to eliminate a lot of men. And other men might complain about contributing to the household, you know, and the idea that somehow it seems to me that women always have to be in the black financially in the relationship, that a relationship becomes a profit-making enterprise for women. And the idea that women will always cost more. When Orion Terabin says, you know, women will always contribute less than they cost, because then you contribute, because they're using it's basically a sexual type of thing, you know, that they have that lever or that evolution. They demand a man who's better than them. That's what women are looking for, is a man that's better than them. Now, on the other hand, you know, that narcissistic, you know, because people feel entitled, both men and women feel entitled to their list of things, especially if they're narcissistic. And so my girlfriend feels entitled to a man who makes more money than her. Now might be say in the next breath, she says, I just need a good man. I make my own money. But then the very next breath, you know, so basically they feel entitled to that. So they're willing to ridicule, just henpeck, just criticize you because you don't meet the standards that they feel they're entitled to. And then also, sometimes we talk about how we treat each other. And we talk about it in terms of what we think from our political perspectives, from modern thinking, from feminist ideas, or whether maybe it's conservative, whatever, but we express these things, but then the dynamics of the relationship are not necessarily like that. In other words, do women really want a man to treat them as their equal? Maybe not in the bedroom, right? So there's a psychological need that sort of is built in, that sort of, even though we intellectually think that we should be this way, things like sexuality, we are not in our sexuality, we're often not what we feel we are or should be. And so, but in other ways, a woman, so we have this idea that a woman wants to be treated equally, but then if a woman loses respect for a man, right, then she also cannot love a man that she doesn't respect and, in a sense, look up to. So sometimes these things are traps, you know, the woman says, we want to be equal, but their nature or their sexuality demands something different. It demands a man to be dominant, to be powerful, to be strong, to be rich, right? So, so we're sort of caught in this idealized version of a pro-feminist reality that we want to reach, of equality and treating the other with fairness, but we're blocked by this sexual desire to be dominated or to dominate, or to be overwhelmed in that type of relationship. And even in our relationships, we want a man to be, women often want a man to be in control, to make the decisions, to drive the car, you know, to pay for the dates. It's not an equal situation. And a woman doesn't actually want the equal situation because she wants a man, and a man is not her equal, in a sense that she seeks and desires a man who is superior to her, rather than someone who is at the same level or below.